Hi there and welcome to new and returning viewers. My name is Erin and this is the Knitting Life podcast. I am coming to you from a sunny east coast of Canada, Nova Scotia. You can find me on Instagram and Ravelry as Dufferin24. As always, you're probably going to hear some background noise as my kids are just outside the window with their father playing and making noise. I am a knitter and a mother, and I try to find time to do knitting when I'm not busy working outside the home or taking care of our two young boys who are 4, almost 5. Our oldest will be 5 this week and our youngest is 3. So sometimes a lot of knitting gets done and sometimes none gets done. Today I am wearing the castellated wrap, which is a pattern and yarn by Sirdar. The pattern is, I think, pattern 8032 by Sirdar, and this is it here. And the yarn is also by Sirdar, which is a color wheel. So it does have kind of a fade to it. And this is the first time that I've actually worn this. I knit it last winter and I never, by the time I finished it, I think the weather was a bit too warm to wear it. And I had it in my closet and I hadn't actually worn it yet until today. So I figure why not bring it out. And I am somewhat guilty of not wearing the wraps and scarves that I do knit because I always feel like I don't know how to style them, as you can tell. But sometimes you don't have to worry about how it's styled because the yarn and the pattern just looks so great that it kind of makes up for it. Today I'm going to talk to you about kind of some holiday and gift knitting things. I have had a few finished objects since my previous podcast before the last one, where I was working on some socks. So I have finished those up, so I'd like to talk to you about those today. And just with some recent holidays with St. Patrick's Day and Easter coming up, I thought it would be nice to talk about some holiday knitting. So first, I guess, start out with St. Patrick's Day, since today is April 14th. We're about a month after St. Patrick's Day, but I did do some quick hats for our boys, and I would like to show those to you. Which is bad because right now I cannot remember the name of the designer of this pattern. It is, I believe, just called the Leprechaun Hat, and that is a free pattern on Ravelry. And I did do this hat as well as this hat in Patton's Canadiana, forest green or green tea. This one is green tea, and I can't remember what this color is. This is actually just from my stash. The black is also Canadiana, Patton's Canadiana, and so is the yellow, which is called Fool's Gold. And I can't remember what the black is, but the black color and this lighter green color were both leftovers from a blanket that I had knit for my nephew a long time ago, probably about 10 years ago. And if I can figure out and have a chance, I will pop a picture in here. So some of my ends kind of have popped out, but as I said, this is the Leprechaun Hat. It is a free pattern on Ravelry. It's a really quick and easy knit. It knit up in an evening, and the original pattern does call for the buckle of the Leprechaun Hat to be crocheted and then sewn on, but I'm not a fantastic crocheter, so I decided that I would do a duplicate stitch. which I've done before and I do actually enjoy doing, but when the fabric stretches, the stitches that are going across kind of spread out and make the buckle look kind of funny. But the kids only wore them for like a week or something at school, and they love them, and they got a really big charge out of wearing them. So it was just quick, cute little knits for that holiday. And I actually did knit another one for a family member to give to her granddaughter. And my grandson, sorry, not my grandson, my son, wore this one on St. Patrick's Day when he went with his grandfather around town, and he got quite a lot of attention and compliments from a lot of ladies, because if I can, I will insert a picture of him here wearing that hat. He is full of the devil and completely looks like a little leprechaun wearing this hat. We also were treated pretty special on St. Patrick's Day, our boys, as my cousin, who is Cat's Eye Collective on Instagram. She is a crocheter. She did make our boys the sweetest little shamrock pins to wear on St. Patrick's Day, and these are them. She also made them hearts to wear on Valentine's Day, and they wore them to their preschool, play school, and they did get a lot of attention wearing these, so they're so sweet. So we'll keep these and we'll put them on them for years to come. Next weekend is Easter weekend, and I do like to try to knit the boys something for Easter. I think it's just sweet to put something in their Easter basket that is knitted. They don't show a huge interest in the items that do end up in their basket right now at this age, but I remember when I was younger, my grandmother was a knitter and a sewer. She was a beautiful knitter. She was a crocheter as well. And I used to, she used to make me all the clothing to go on my Barbie dolls. And I would get those every Christmas, and I used to wonder why I couldn't have the Gem and the Rockers outfits, the pink and neon pink and silver and everything that I saw in the stores and on commercials. But now that I'm older, it's the knitted clothes that I remember that my grandmother made, and it really kind of almost makes me want to cry when I think about how she put so much love and care into those items. And I still have them. They're at my parents' house, and I really do treasure them. So I know that my boys probably aren't super excited about little knitted items in their Easter basket when they're this age, but hopefully when they get older, these will be the things that they remember from their childhood like I do. So last year I did knit them 2 little Easter bunnies. I did not cast anything on as of yet for next weekend for Easter 2019, but long story, but I have been doing a lot of recent knitting for everyone else other than me, so I have had a huge urge just to cast on something for me. So when I finally got everything off the needles that I needed to, I have been more focused on trying to knit something for myself. So I haven't really been focused on getting something knitted for them for this year for Easter, but I'm thinking it might be something pretty quick and simple, maybe some little Easter eggs or something, or maybe another little bunny. I'm not sure, but we'll see what comes out. Hopefully I will get something done for them. But last year I did do the Mini Bunny Loves pattern by Susan B. Anderson. This is a sweet little pattern. It's a paid for pattern available on Ravelry, and very adaptable to different yarns, yarn weights and needles. So I can recommend that one, and it does knit up super fast. Unfortunately, last year I ended up being up until almost midnight on Easter Saturday before Easter Sunday morning, trying to finish the last bunny. So as per usual, I'm a procrastinator and finished just under the wire. So this was the finished results. They have these huge little ears. They're like little drunk ears that just kind of flop all over, and they got cute little bunny tails. And this one's kind of, my son used to take it to bed. He hasn't in a while, but it definitely needs to be fixed. His little pom-pom's kind of loose. These are done out of stash yarns. This is a opal sock yarn. And this is a mystery sock yarn that was in my stash as well. I think it's a Croy, and I think someone gifted it to me. They had made a pair of socks and we're done with what was left. So I did manage to use all of that. And this opal was a pair of socks that I did make for my cousin, and I was able to knit square into my Cozy Memories blanket, as well as make this bunny and send off some other little mini skeins to some friends. So these are really cute and really sweet and do knit up super fast. And I always love the little amigurumi that just kind of sit in the palm of your hand. So right now they kind of occupy space on their bookshelves, but I should leave this guy out and get his butt fixed. So I'm curious to know what your favorite holiday is to knit for. Maybe it's Christmas. Christmas seems to be a huge knitting holiday. Wondering maybe if you'd let me know who your favorite person is to knit for, or what some of your favorite holiday themed patterns have been, or a holiday themed yarn. If there's something that sticks out in your mind in particular, maybe you could comment below and let me know. I would say it's about a 60-40% split for me for knitting for myself, with about 60% of my knits going to other people and about 40 actually staying here with me. Sometimes I cast things on for myself and I get going on the project and someone pops into my head, and then that project ends up being for them. So that always makes me feel good to give somebody something unexpected, just to let them know that I was thinking about them. And of course, something that's handmade, it's from the heart. It always makes someone feel good. So recently, back a couple episodes ago, not my previous episode, but the one before that, I did talk to you a bit about an exchange that I am doing with my cousin, Cat's Eye Collective on Instagram, where she crocheted me a Hudson Bay themed blanket in exchange for some knitted socks. So my goal was to knit those socks and get them all off the needles by the end of March, and that goal was relatively completed. I think maybe had the last pair of socks blocking a couple days into April, which was great for me as a huge procrastinator. I thought that was quite an accomplishment to get that all done in the month of March. So other than the Leprechaun hats, March was basically consumed with sock knitting, and I would like to show you those socks now. So I think I probably have shown you these ones in not the previous episode, but the episode before that. These are done in the Patton's Croy Purple Haze colorway. And all of these socks actually fit me perfectly, so it's kind of hard to give them away, but I'm so happy to give them away. I hope that she's just as happy getting them. And the next pair is Sunburst Stripes colorway, also in the Patton's Croy. Nice and bright and springy. I love the way the afterthought heel looks in the yarn, how it doesn't break up the whole color movement of the fabric. And And the third is blue striped rag, which I have knit this colorway before for another friend. And I actually ended up sending them to her. She lives in Fort McMurray, and she got them about a day or two before the Fort McMurray wildfires. So they do hold kind of a special place in her heart. So these are them. I love this colorway. I need to make a pair for myself. And the third pair is a heavier sock, more like a house slipper, and as I mentioned, this is done in the Briggs and Little heritage, but the colorway is actually a hand-dyed colorway that I picked up at a place in Truro in Nova Scotia, actually just outside Truro, Salmon River, and that shop is called Gwens Handmade Creations, and she is on Facebook. She does have a lot of rug hooking supplies, but she's also a knitter and I believe a crocheter as well. So she does have some knitting and crochet supplies there as well. I had gone there on a trip, a day trip with some knitters, some fellow knitters last spring, last spring, about a year ago, and I hadn't known that that this shop had even existed. And when I was there, I noticed she actually had a it was a piece from a crib that she had found on the side of the road that she took home to use as a way to display her hand-dyed yarns. So it was kind of just the panel of the crib with all the slats, and I think she had it turned so that the slats were all kind of like a ladder. And what she does is she hand dyes the Briggs and Little heritage, I believe. I don't think it's the Tuffy, yeah, it's the heritage, which is like a wool nylon blend. It's a 80-20, I believe, and she has some beautiful colors. And when I was there, she did have a color that kind of stuck out in my head. It was like a robin's egg color, and I didn't purchase it at the time, and it just kind of stuck with me. And then in December, I took a day trip there, me and my husband, just a day off, and I went there and it was still there, so I did leave with it. And I made a pair of mittens. I'm not sure if I showed those on here or not, but if maybe I'll just insert a picture so that you know what I'm talking about. I did the Little Heart's Ease mittens. I did them in Briggs and Little heritage main color, turquoise color, or teal. It's called teal. And the robin's egg color that I purchased at Gwens was the accent color of all the little hearts. So I didn't use the whole skein, and I did end up with a lot of leftovers. The color I really, really love. I just thought it would be so nice to share that with someone else that I love. So I knit these kind of socks, house slippers, and as you can see, hopefully, the yarn kind of, the hand dyeing of it, it kind of has this like light to deep color, and the teal I think really brings that out. And I only had a little bit of the teal left in my stash. I am still trying to get through my stash, so I did not do the full toe. I just put the stripe around the toe, and I think I only have a tiny little bit of this robin's egg color left, which she didn't actually have a name on the colorway. It was just kind of wrapped back up into a skein with the Briggs and Little tag on it, which made me kind of look at it the first time I was there and think, wow, Briggs and Little is doing this kind of color? Like usually all their colors are solids, not this kind of variegated tonal colorways. Yeah, so these are them, and they do felt this when I first started sock knitting, the majority of my socks were knit using Briggs and Little, and they were this thick kind of traditional East Coast like sock. This is what a lot of people in this area are familiar with, because it is so cold around here in the winter that a lot of people have grown up wearing socks like these, probably a bit higher. So that's kind of how I started out sock knitting, and yeah, I do enjoy them. They're awesome as house slippers. Actually, when I had both my boys in the labor room, I had knit a pair each time for delivery, because labor rooms can be chilly. So I had my brand new socks ready to go for each delivery, and then I wore them right out. So I hope that she enjoys these. They feel like little clouds on your feet, and they keep you nice and warm, just like a slipper in the winter. So these are the 4 pair of socks that I did for our exchange, and I do hope that she loves them. I love them, so I hope that she loves them too. So running along with my theme of trying to use every little scrap of yarn from my stash, I do always knit my sock weight, fingering weight yarn into my Cozy Memories blanket. So I was able to get a square of each one of these fingering weight socks into my Cozy Memories blanket. But earlier in the year, I kind of had made a resolution too that I would also, if I did have anything left over from any socks that I knit, that I would knit a mini sock, so that hopefully by Christmas I could have like a little garland to hang of all little stockings, which is a nice little memory to look back on for the year, just to see what socks that you had knit. So I am using a free pattern on Ravelry, and it is called Nano Sock Xmas Ornament. And it is super easy. It uses a toe-up design and an I-cord hanger hook. So I was able to also make 3 little stockings from those. And this one, I'm not sure what happened. This one, actually, even just the socks, the ragged blue yarn colorway, it's all the same yarn. It's all Patton's Croy, it's all 4-ply, but this this yarn seemed to be a lot thinner than the other ones, and even the socks did turn out to be a little bit, the fabric's a little bit tighter, even though I used the same stitch counts and the same needles on each one. So I do have 56 stitches for these ones, because I like it to fit. See, this one is a bit bigger, and so is the Purple Haze in comparison to the Blue Ragged Stripe. So even the little Nano socks, this one did come out smaller than the other ones. Kind of hard to tell, but, and as for the little hook, the little hanger, I just must have not been paying attention and started that round at the front of the sock instead of at the back, but that's not a huge big deal. I don't think anybody's gonna notice that. And I do have another one knit in West Yorkshire Spinners, so I have 4 of these so far for this year. So since before Christmas time, I have been hitting the sock knitting super hard. It seems every project I make, other than tiny little offsets, are just socks. So after knitting all of those bigger socks and little socks in the month of March, I have decided that me and sock knitting are officially breaking up for a little while. I am a sock knitter. It's what I know, it's safe. I am a safe knitter. I do get easily frustrated when I'm challenged and not able to do something right off the hop. I find that I'm really hard on myself if I can't do something perfectly right away. So I really want to use, as I might have already mentioned in previous episode, I really want to use some of my indie dyed yarns that are in my stash to make some garments that I can wear and enjoy instead of having it in my closet. So that is my focus right now. That's where my knitting is headed. I still have a few pair of socks on the needles in on my whips, which is good to have for times when it's not always convenient to be paying attention to a pattern, like if you're car knitting or if you have company and you're chit-chatting. Sometimes it's hard to count stitches and chat as well. So I do have those on the needle still, and those are there if I need them, but I am going to try to go forward with garment knitting for me. So I do have a couple of sweaters to knit that I want to knit, and actually after last episode where I showed you all the Agatha Christie theme yarns that I have from Artistic Lily, I think I would like to knit the So Faded cardigan by Andrea Mowry. I am, as I say, intimidated because I have knit a couple sweaters that have just been for toddlers or babies, but never an adult sweater. And I did try to knit a sweater last spring, colorwork sweater, which colorwork is not really my thing yet. And I was very discouraged with the lack of progress that I made. So hopefully going forward, I will just toughen up and stick it out right to the end to see the finished garment. So easing myself into things, I know, really still playing it safe. I couldn't help it. This is kind of a splurge item for myself because I did see on Instagram earlier last week. I always have my Instagram set to receive notifications when Artistic Lily does post on Instagram, because I want to make sure that I don't miss any of the Agatha Christie mystery skeins, mystery sock sets. So I did get a notification about one of her posts, and I did log on to Instagram and see that there was a designer featuring a new shawl that would have her yarn as the main, oh my gosh, where are my words? That would feature her yarn in the shawl, basically. Her yarn is the particular yarn that she wants to feature in this design. So it is just been released on April the 11th, I think, just on Thursday. So I did purchase it that day because I wanted to get it on the needles. I was super excited when I saw Artistic Lily post it. So on Thursday I did purchase it, and it is called the Ellie Sock Set Shawl by Heather Boss. Sorry if I pronounced that wrong. And this is in black and white, so it's not going to show much, but that is the pattern. If you go on Instagram to either Artistic Lily or to Yellow Ribbon Knits, I think, you will see this particular picture, this photo here, which is done in like a gray and a teal, and it's absolutely gorgeous. So I have decided to do this in the ABC Murders sock set, and I did show that on my last episode, and that is the Gotta Have Socks fingering. So it is a merino nylon blend, and it does have the mini with it. And I did actually do a swatch for this. I don't think gauge is relatively important with this project, but it did say gauge, and as I am trying to challenge myself to do more garment knitting and learn some more skills, I did do a gauge swatch, and I actually did get the gauge with the recommended needle. So I have stuck with the 4.5, which is the recommended needle. And these are the yarns. And this is how far I have gotten. So it does, it's a triangular shaped shawl, which increases on one side and decreases on the other. It does have short row inserts where you insert the mini skein. So the object of this pattern is to fully use the sock set with the mini to have a shawl. So the designer's idea is that sometimes the 100-gram sock yarn is not enough. Yarn is not big enough. Not enough yarn to achieve a big enough shawl, but if you use the 20-gram mini in that shawl, it should be enough. So she has designed this pattern to incorporate these short row inserts to use the mini. And the one that is featured that I do mention is the gray and the teal. The gray is a solid color, while mine is not. It is variegated? Why does that sound funny? So I'm kind of curious to see how the mini will feature in this yarn, and I feel like something looks kind of funny there, but it'll probably block out. I did have to cast on a couple times because I will confess that wrap and turn is not my forte. I've done it with the short row heels, and I have done it in a couple other shawls, but I just have such a difficult time when I get to the wrap, back to the wrap. I have a difficult time recognizing whether it's a wrap or whether it's a stitch when you go back to pick the wrap up to knit with the stitch. I really have a hard time seeing that. But where these are done in two different yarns, it is two different colors, it is somewhat fairly obvious. And the way that I'm recognizing it now is to think of it literally as like a scarf, like over the stitch, like my head is the stitch on the needle and this is the wrap. It's like off to the side. Whereas if it was to stitch, it would be like this. I hope that makes sense, but that is the way that I can see it and visualize it when I come back to pick it up to knit it. And also of interest in this pattern is that the designer does have a video tutorial for doing the wraps and picking the wraps up, which is super helpful, especially for me. So hopefully by the time this shawl is finished, I will have a bit more confidence in wraps and turns. That's about it for today for me. I really appreciate you following right to the end and watching. If you are a new viewer, maybe you'd like to subscribe and keep coming back to check me out. And if you're a returning viewer, I really thank you for giving me lots of love and support. So I hope this week is kind to you all, and I hope you get to spend lots of time doing the things that you enjoy. Take care. Bye-bye.